abusing them, physically abusing them, sexually abusing them. Adverse childhood experiences. Now, adverse childhood experiences. Mentally abusing them, physically abusing them, sexually abusing them.
Adverse childhood experiences. We got the unpredictable stresses that children go through, like losing mommy or daddy, or watching them go to jail, forced to grow up because they've been touched down there. They even see parents depressed with no time to spare. This is why the kids are lonely, traumatized. That's why ACEs matter.
So have you heard about these things called ACEs?
I mean, I think I heard of them, something about adverse childhood experiences. Why you asking me that?
Yeah, that is what ACEs stands for. And I was reading this research from the CDC. And like you said, adverse childhood experiences, you basically take these 10 questions and it's going to give you a score, 0 through 10. What was fascinating about this research was they said if you score a 5 or more, they be saying you're a risk to society.
So what you saying is, both me and my sons are a risk to society? They build prisons in preparation for people with these untreated ACEs, don't they?
Yeah, basically. Unless, of course, they go untreated and you catch them early. But that ain't it. You know what else the CDC said?
What?
The CDC said that diabetes, obesity, cancer, heart disease, and stroke are all associated with these things called adverse childhood experiences, aka ACEs.
Stop. So what you saying is, if the streets don't kill me, the diseases resulting from these ACEs will? The diseases resulting from these ACEs will? What about alcoholism? I got a couple of people that's been messed up on alcoholism in my family. A couple of them done died.
That's in there too, but I'm just talking about the top 5. We ain't even got to the tip of the iceberg. Check this out. You know what else they said?
What?
They said 1 in every 6 people have at least a score of 4 or higher.
1 in every 6 people have at least a score of 4 or higher.
So what you saying is, at least one person on this call right now should have been incarcerated or at risk for early death because of these untreated ACEs?
Basically.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us for another episode of ACEs Matter Live. And my name is Michael, and I am the founder for ER for Traumatized Children. And on the second and fourth Fridays, I give a 60-minute conversation about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. But we don't like to call ourselves hosts. We like to call ourselves reachers. As reachers, we use our social media platform to reach out to inform people about ACEs. And we interview survivors and subject matter experts on ACEs. Now, I cannot go on any further without giving you our disclaimer. Our disclaimer is we are not doctors, and you may be, if you are triggered today with any of this information, and we urge you to call your physician as quick as possible. And somebody may be on the line tonight that never heard of ACEs. And you may be asking, what are ACEs? ACEs is negative abuse that children has endured before the age of 18. And if not healed, carried over into adulthood as long-term effects. And they will be affected mentally and physically, if not healed as a child. And you may not ever heard of ACEs Matter. Let me tell you what ACEs Matter, what we do. ACEs Matter is a charitable fundraising service where we give information on ACEs and on the research of ACEs. And our mission is to have every house, every community talking and doing something about ACEs. Before we go on any further, you know that I am a preacher, and I cannot go on without adding or without giving you some inspiration from the Lord, without bringing God into it. So today's scripture is 1 Peter 5 and verse 7. And it says, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. Whatever you're going through, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's physical or mentally. God said, cast it on him. He loved us so much that he would take all of our burdens away from us and carry them himself. And when you cast them upon him, you don't have to worry about them anymore. And I can tell you from experience, when I cast my burdens upon him, because I was carrying burdens of the trauma that I went through. I was carrying burdens of everything that went on in my life. I was carrying those burdens so that it was giving me mental issues. But when I gave it to him, when I turned all of my burdens over to him, not only was I able to forgive those, but I was able to forgive myself. And when I forgave myself, that's when I could start living. And tonight's show is about healing the whole person. And when you heal the whole person, that's physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, we talk about ACEs on this show, but ACEs is a science, and the word of God and science goes together. You can't have science without the word of God. And so science of ACEs tells us what happened to us is why we live in today. What people told us is what we live in now today. We believe what people told us. We believe what happened in our life. But when we give it over to God, then we can start believing what he told us what we were, what he created us to be. So welcome back. Thank you for coming back. As you can see, I have my wife with me as my special guest today. Her name is Majellis. She is a personal trainer. She teaches a class of step and boot camp combined. And I'm just so glad to have her with us on our webinar tonight.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, as you said, I am a certified personal trainer as well as a certified group specialist. I teach step fitness with Pedal Life in Amory, Mississippi. And I'm an avid workout fanatic.
And she does mean, when she says fanatic, she did not lie. She is a true fanatic. Every day, every morning, evening, afternoon, she's going to do something. And she always wants to put our name in. Whenever she goes, she wants to say, are you ready to go? And let us go. But sometimes I don't want to go, but I end up going anyway. So I'm glad to have you with me tonight on my webinar. I know you have heard me talk about ACEs a lot in these last few months. And you've heard me say that I'm a survivor of ACEs. But I was in I saw a webinar last week, and they showed a clip, a video. And I want you to watch that video. And so maybe you can learn a little bit more about ACEs, or hear somebody else talk about ACEs instead of me.
Okay.
The reality is that we all need a certain amount of stress, a certain amount of anxiety to perform well. If we don't care about that exam that we're going to have tomorrow, we'll probably fail. If we're going to cross the street and a truck is coming at us, we have release of adrenaline. We have release of a hormone that we call cortisol. We want to jump out of there, and adrenaline and cortisol are going to help us do that. So there's that good amount of stress. But if all day long you're feeling like a truck is coming at you, day after day after day, that's going to take a toll on the body. And the amygdala obviously here has greater activation in the PTSD. We were able to image children that had experienced trauma and compare those brain images with children that didn't have an experience of trauma and didn't have symptoms.
Right, an exaggerated fear response.
An exaggerated fear response with decreased activation in areas that we need to control that emotion, in the frontal areas.
Exposure to early adversity and trauma literally affects the structure and function of children's developing brains. So the kid next to them hits them, or the teacher reprimands them in a way that they're uncomfortable with, right? Literally what they're feeling, that activation, is like there was a truck coming at them. You can give something that will mask symptoms, right? For example, if someone has a cough, right, you can give them a really strong cough serum that will suppress their cough. But if it's because they have tuberculosis or lung cancer, then what you're doing is merely masking the symptoms while the disease process continues to fester. We know what's happening in children's brains and bodies with the experience of toxic stress. So the question now is, what do we do about it?
Put a finger down, adverse childhood experiences edition. Put a finger down if any of these have happened to you under the age of 18. Put a finger down if you've ever been sweared at, insulted, or humiliated by a parent. Put a finger down if you've ever been physically injured by a parent. Put a finger down if you were sexually assaulted as a child. Put a finger down if you feel like you weren't emotionally supported and loved by your family. Put a finger down if you feel like your basic needs were neglected, or you feel like your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you. Put a finger down if you lost a parent to divorce or abandonment. Put a finger down if you witnessed a parent being physically abused at least twice. Put a finger down if you were raised by an addict. Put a finger down if your parent had severe mental illness. And lastly, put a finger down if a family member went to prison. Did you know the more fingers you just put down, the higher risk you are for health issues later on in life? Health issues such as these.
Welcome back from that very informative video. How did you like the video? Did you learn a lot from it?
I did. I said, I never knew ACEs had such an impact on people.
It does. That's why I'm very passionate about getting it out, especially here where I live, where we live,
Right.
here in Tupelo, Mississippi. You know, I am a hero, zip code hero of 38801. And before we get started, we always like to ask our guests, what zip code do you want to shout out so you can be a zip code hero?
38855.
38855. That's the zip code that she's shouting out today. And now for this very informative video that we just watched, you know, we saw Dr. Nadine Harris at the end of. That's the doctor I'm always telling you about.
Right.
When I'm always talking about, she is the leader in the forefront of ACEs. She's, you know, the first Surgeon General of California. I've read her book. It's just, and you know, if I read the book, it's got to be very informative if I've read the whole book.
Wow.
But this video today, you know, it talked about. Before we get into that, though, I have some stats, some stats that I want to talk about. We always like to bring some stats in on the show before we get started. And some of the things that I looked up and found today. The first thing is we're talking about. The name of our show is. I've been all month. We've been talking about healing the whole person,
right?
Physically and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because I believe when you heal the whole person, that you're healed. But if you don't heal the whole person, it's easier to go back to the old person.
I agree with that.
And so that's why we're talking about, we talk about ACEs, the mental side, but that's why we're having you on our show tonight, so you can give us the physical part of it. And so the toxic stress is a big thing. You heard them talk about toxic stress in the video.
Right.
That's a big thing that happens in ACEs. Toxic stress runs through our children's bodies and hinders the development of the body and the mind. And so I got some statistics, some data that I want to talk about. And the first one is talking about toxic stress, how it hurts the brain. The first thing is it changes the structure of the brain. Did you know ACEs changes the structure of your brain?
Wow, no, I did not know that.
And so toxic stress, it conditions you to live in the trauma that you're in. So it actually rewires the brain. It can take a normal child and start having trauma, and it rewires the brain and condition that child to live in that trauma.
I can see that.
Okay. The second thing is a child that had experienced at least 4 toxic stress events was 15 times more likely to attempt suicide, 3 times more likely to suffer from depression, and 4 times more likely to become an alcoholic or a drug user.
Wow, that's some pretty high stats.
You know, and I was there. I can tell you especially about all of them. and especially and the depression and the suicidal thoughts. You know,
Wow.
I've told you that a lot, that I was there. And so now you're starting to see that. You see, well, a little bit more. I understand a little bit more why I was there when we first got married. Why the state of mind that I was in.
Right. I said this has helped me to understand better.
Okay. The last one on this is toxic stress in childhood is not only a serious social problem. It costs our country billions of dollars over the lifespan of traumatized children.
Wow.
Billions of dollars. When
That's
they started,
money.
that's right. When they start as children going to the doctors, or even let's say if they don't get healed, then they grow up, go to work. They can't function on the job. Then they off from work. Right. It's costing the employers money. You can never would have thought that ACEs and growing up in trauma can impact not only the person, right, but the whole country. Just one child.
Wow.
That's why I always say if you heal one child, you heal a generation. And not just the generation of his children, but it even helps the country financially.
Wow, I never thought of that. That's interesting.
That's why I'm so passionate about getting it out. And I got another one here, and this is talking about the toxic stress, the effect it have on unborn children. Did you know that even an unborn child can endure trauma and abuse?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It says stress experienced by a woman during pregnancy may affect an unborn baby as early as 17 weeks after the conception.
I said this goes to explain sometimes, people that I personally know, this would help explain, their actions and what they're going through. And so hearing about ACEs has gave me a better understanding of them, that maybe it's they really can't help themselves. They're not aware of what's happening to them.
That's it. They're not aware of it.
Right.
And so our mission is to make them aware of it. And not only see, we think about, and we talk about an unborn child being traumatized or being hurt while still in the womb, we think about if the mother is on drugs or alcohol. We know that affects them. But you don't realize that when that mother is going through trauma and a lot of stress, that toxic stress, her toxic stress is actually going to the unborn baby. It passes on to the baby. Right. The same way as the drugs and alcohol. So when that child is born, it already has ACEs.
Wow.
It's already traumatized. The last one, a 2017 review of a study trusted source links parental stress to increased risk of miscarriages. Or in other words, the research tells us that found that women who had major negative life events or psychological stress exposure was twice as likely to have early miscarriages. In other words, if they've been through trauma while pregnant, they are twice as likely to have a miscarriage. Just to break that down in words that I can actually pronounce.
Wow.
Twice as likely to have a miscarriage.
I guess that goes along with the perception that, babies in the womb can hear. And if a mother is going through stress, whether there's abuse in the house or yelling and screaming, that the baby can remember that.
And
okay. Makes sense.
So, ACEs is very, very common. It says one of the things that I teach is nearly 64% of every adult has at least one ACE.
Wow.
So even if you grew up in a good household or something, you still may have at least one ACE.
And not even be aware.
But once you hit the score of 4, I think the number is 1 out of 6 children has at least a 4 ACEs score. That's when it really starts affecting the child, when it hits the ACEs of 4. So some of us have an ACE of 1, and it's not affecting us. Now, I always joke with you and say you grew up and had a good life. You had a good childhood. You got everything you wanted. You ate good. But the statistics tell us there that even though you were not affected, that you will know somebody that's been affected, or you even be in a relationship with somebody that's been affected. Do you believe that now?
I do. And I said, if you're saying that most of us will have one ACEs, so that means that even if you grew up in a stellar home, that you still have at least one.
I still have at least one.
Even if you can function. That's something to think about.
Yes, it is. That's why we're so passionate to get this information out so we can start healing our children, educating our parents on how to raise our children to heal them. So you've heard the data, and we talked a little bit more about ACEs, and now you know a little bit more about ACEs, and you have shouted out 38855.
That's correct.
And since you are a personal trainer and on the show tonight, what is your solution, or what do you think that 38855 needs to know about personal training and ACEs?
So I am very passionate about not only my family and friends and just the community being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And exercise is so important for just your mental health.
Yes.
Because I use exercise as a stress reliever.
Mm-hmm.
I can go out and walk or jog or lift weights, put on my headset.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm done, whatever problem I had, hey, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least it's not as big as I thought it was. Because sometimes we make our problems bigger than what they really are.
There you go. I like that. But yeah, you said that you will go out and you use it for a stress reliever. And that's what we're talking about, this saying toxic stress. And toxic stress is when you go in, and our children go in survival mode, and all these chemical imbalances start flooding through their bodies. Right. Cortisol, a hormone, is a cortisol, the hormone starts flooding through their body, which puts them in survival mode. And when it stays there too long, it becomes toxic to them.
Right.
And so that's what starts harming the body and affecting their minds, the toxic stress. And so that's what we are going to be focusing on this evening. And I know you are an advocate. You work out and you exercise every day.
Right.
You're a personal trainer and you believe in your exercise. And we've talked about what you think that they need to know. But tell us what exercise, how has exercise helped you in your health?
Oh my, I said, I have always been one to, as I thought, work out and walk or run. But what was the turning point for me is I could work out all day, but my eating was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And we always have a saying that you can never outwork a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't burn 1,000 calories and then take in 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And my turning point was when the scales tipped 200. I've always said, if I ever get to be 200 pounds, that's going to be it. I'm going to have to do something. And I was on a trip with some friends and I was looking at the pictures and I just could not believe, how big I looked. And when I came back, I had made a promise to myself. And that's the first thing. You have to have a made up mind. Mm-hmm. You can't be wishy-washy. You have to have a made up mind, what you're going to do. And at that point, I told my friend, I said, when I get back, I'm going to start eating healthy and I'm going to lose weight. And I weighed in. The scale said 201. I said, okay, now I know what I have to work with. So at that point, I really buckled down. I got serious with my exercising. I started to eat better. And I think it was in 5 weeks, I dropped 25 pounds. Mm. And so when I could see some results, I started really believing, hey, I can do this, and I just kept going. But with anything, there's always a point of going too far. Mm. And we all have to decide not what the doctors say you should weigh or what the doctors say you should look like. Your body is going to let you know when you are to that ideal weight that's right for you. Mm. And I was very successful at losing weight. But I took it, I found myself almost being obsessed with losing weight. Mm. And I went from a size 16 all the way down to a size 5'6". So to me, I thought I was doing great. But then people were like, wow, you're really skinny. And I didn't see myself being skinny. I was proud of myself. I thought I had it all together. But looking back and looking at the pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was skinny. And so I finally, started to, focus more on my weight training and taking in a few more calories where I wasn't skinny, but I never got that. I never was fat, but I got to that comfortable weight that looked good on me, that felt right for me.
And I just got to say this. She showed me a picture when she was real small. And I told her she turned sideways to take the picture and the camera missed her. That's how small she was. The camera almost missed her. She was so small. But how has it, and you also told me something else that even health-wise, not just losing weight, but even health-wise, exercise has helped you. What was your health-wise, didn't you say you had high blood pressure?
Yes, I said I had went to my yearly checkup, and the doctor said, your blood pressure is high. We're going to have to put you on some blood pressure medicine. And I was like, no. I said, I went ahead and I started to take the blood pressure medicine. I said, I am not going to stay on this medicine because I've always said that I never wanted to be one of those people that is 60 years old and having to decide, whether I'm going to eat or whether, I'm going to have money for my medicine. And I never wanted to be on a maintenance drug that I had to take every day for the rest of my life. So that was also a deciding factor of me losing weight because I don't want to be on medicine. I know what high blood pressure medicine can do to you. There's a history of high blood pressure in my families. There's some diabetes, which I never had diabetes, thank God. But I know that there's some increased risk of diabetes and high blood pressure, high cholesterol with weight. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to nip that in the bud by just losing the weight, eating better. And, you will be surprised, what just taking one small step at a time, when you make up your mind, that's the first step, is you have to have a made up mind. A doctor can tell you all day, hey, you need to lose weight. And you can have good intentions of losing weight. Mm-hmm. I said, but if your mind is not made up, you're not going to do it. You may do it for a little while, but then you're going to resort back to what you were doing before. Mm-hmm. Losing weight is a lifestyle change.
There it is right there, a lifestyle.
A lifestyle change. It's not any fad diets. It's a lifestyle change. You have to learn how to eat. It's not so much, regardless of what people say, it's not so much what you eat, it's how you eat. Your portion sizes is very important. As studies say that you should never eat over a fist size of food. That's all you should have on your plate. That you should eat at least six small meals a day. Don't sit down and eat a big plate of food all at one time. And another thing that's very important is people think that, well, I won't eat breakfast and I won't eat lunch. I'll just eat one meal a day and I'll lose weight. Well, yes, initially you will lose weight, but also you will put your body into starvation mode because it will hold on, even good stuff. If you're eating healthy, it will hold on to that because it thinks it's not going to get anything else.
I just want to go back to something you said. First, you said that you had those problems in your history in your family, and you didn't want that.
Right.
ACEs is all about, for the ACEs, it's passing stuff down. Right. In our family, ACEs changes your DNA, so you pass it down to your children. And you said you didn't want that. But another thing you said, what I really want to talk about is bring out is you knew that you call it a maintenance drug.
Right.
You didn't want to be on that high blood pressure because it was a maintenance drug. In other words, that drug was just taking care of the symptom.
Right.
It wasn't taking care of the problem.
Right.
Many times I saw, as working in a boys' home, I saw they were doing the same thing. If that child has grown up in ACEs and trauma, and now he's in school, and he's not paying attention in school,
right.
And the first thing the teachers want to say, he has ADHD. Send him to the physician, to the doctor. They put him on ADHD medicine, but they haven't gotten to the root of the problem. Sometimes it's not that child may not have ADHD. It's root back to the trauma that he was raised in. Sometimes if it's more than just, he's not even thinking about, he's in class, but his mind is not there. His mind is still in survival mode because he's thinking about what's going to happen when he get home. Am I going to get beat up when I get home? Am I going to get molested when I get home? Am I going to see my mother get beat up when I get home? Am I going to have food to eat when I get home? What's going to happen when I leave school? What's going to happen on the way to school? So sometimes it's not a problem with ADHD. It's a problem that he's not thinking about that because it's other stuff that's more important than that English test right now.
Right. We have something that kind of goes back to at work. I deal with safety as well. And if someone has an accident or anything of that nature, we have what is called a root cause analysis conversation. And they don't just say, oh, this person turned the machine on by accident and the person's hand was smashed. They go back to did the person do a mental safety analysis before they start a job? Did they have the proper PPE? Did they follow the SOP guidelines? Was the machine locked out? There's a number of things that go instead of just saying, well, the person turned the machine on and that person's finger was smashed. You know, you need to know why
Correct.
the machine was turned on. Why did why was their finger in the machine? So and I can understand how, you know, this relates to ACEs, because you can't just put a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
There you go.
You have to get to the root cause of something. If you have high blood pressure, going back to that, or diabetes, you just don't happen to have it. Something has to be there has to be a cause, a reason that you have high blood pressure. Is it partly hereditary? Is it your diet? Are you not getting enough exercise? There has to be something that is causing it. And that's the main thing, that we figure out those underlying conditions. And just like ACEs, what you're talking about, ACEs, I can see that in diabetes or high blood pressure, there's always some symptoms. You know, a person may have more headaches. I said, so nothing happens by chance.
Nothing.
Sometimes we can mask the symptoms by saying, oh, I just have a headache. I have them all the time. But we never figure out why we're having a headache. So it goes back to what you were saying. I think the example you gave about in the classroom. Sometimes teachers may not, because if they don't understand ACEs, just like I was not knowledgeable of ACEs, they may say, yes, that child has ADHD, and put them on medication, because that seems to be the answer for everything. But she or he is not looking at the fact that, okay, what type of home life does this child have?
Right.
You know, is the mom and dad at home, or is it a single mother, or is the child being raised by a grandmother or uncle? Is there other people in the house? Or, you know, there's different things that can cause, you know, a child to act out, you know, and they could be getting molested. Their parents one could be, you know, abusive. So I can see that all of these things tie into, you know, our high blood pressure problems, our diabetes, and high cholesterol. Stress can cause so many problems. That's why it's so important for us, especially African Americans, to stay active. Stay active. You know, we all like the greens and the peas with all that good meat in it, but is that really the best thing for us? No, we have to pick and choose, as I'm going to call it, our happies, you know, and we can't have happies all the time. You know, if you, a good thing to do to start out is say, okay, I'm going to eat healthy Monday through Friday, and on the weekend, I can have a treat. I said that way you're getting, per se, both of the best worlds. You're eating healthy all week. You're doing your exercising, so you can reward yourself, and it's okay to reward yourself, because, you know, if, for example, if you like pizza, instead of going to Pizza Hut and order a whole pizza, go somewhere and buy a slice of pizza. And usually when you get the taste, then you're good.
You know, so you have already taken us into our next segment on the strategies. You have just given us so much today. And one thing that I do want to bring out is you said about the pizza.
Yes.
You know, that's a mind change, lifestyle change, and, you know, because your body, well, first of all, sometimes we can use food as a coping mechanism.
Yes.
And so when I'm depressed, I'm going to eat the whole pizza. And then I look in the mirror, and then I've gained more weight. Now I'm even more depressed. Now I'm going to go and get another pizza.
Oh my.
Because it's a coping mechanism, and we can use a lot of things for a coping mechanism. Right. So one of the things that you said with that I want to connect together is it has to start in your mind.
Right.
You have, whatever you're doing, it has to be a mind change about it. You have to renew your mind. That's why the Bible says renew your mind. Even the Bible talks about renewing your mind. So everything starts with a renewed mind, with a changed mind. So that's why the ACEs is educating people,
right,
to change their mindset. Exercise. That's not something that you can just jump up one day and say, I'm ready to go ahead and run a mile. It's a mindset. And I watch you so much in the routine. You got a set routine. And I know that you didn't start out saying, I'm going to get up every morning at 4:30. I'm going to go to lunch and go to the track. I'm going to get off work and go to spin class, or I'll go teach my class. I know that had to be a mindset, a mind change.
Yes, it did. I mean, and you're correct. I didn't wake up one day and decide on this. It's all about having a plan. You know, when you want to do anything, you have to sit down and you say, okay, let me get a strategy. Let me get a plan of what I'm going to do. So with me, I said, I started off with friends and say, okay, a group of us, we're going to go walk every day after work. So we started off good and we did it a few days. And then it was like every day, well, we're going to walk? No, I'm not going today. And then, so I found myself saying, well, okay, I won't go either. So then I had to reassess things and say, okay, I'm not going to be able to depend on other people to be there, be my partner and hold me accountable, and I hold them accountable. So from that point on, I decided that I have to do this. I want this. No one wants it more than me. So I had, vowed that, okay, I'm never going to have a workout partner. So everything basically I do other than teaching my class or going to spin, I basically do by myself, unless I do it with you. But, sometimes when you're ready and maybe your friend is not ready, you can't allow other people to hold you back from something that you want and need. So at that point, I had to decide, okay, I'm going to get this routine. I'm going to get up in the mornings because that's when I have the most energy. I'm fresh. I've had a good night rest. I'm going to get my workout in. And then if I have any energy left at the end of the day, I can do something else. Well, I developed, this routine that was this, I just felt like I could just go. And I decided that, people have, and you have to know what you can do, because what I do and what works for me may not work for you. I can walk 10 miles a day and I feel wonderful, but you can only walk 3 miles a day. We have to decide, what's best for us and what strategies to use. And, and like I said, rewarding yourself by being able to maybe have a slice of cake on Saturday, or have, a pizza, or have whatever it is that you may like to indulge in. But you have to be willing to put in the work first.
That's right. And, as we get ready to close out here, rewarding yourself, that's what rewrites and resets your nervous system. If you do something good, if you reward yourself for doing that,
right,
then your mind says, okay, this must be right. Let me do it again.
Right.
And so if my body knows that I've done a good thing, I've gone all week without the cake, without the pie, and I worked out all week, and then I have that slice of cake, then it rewires my brain to say, okay, I don't need all that all during the week. I can do this. I can eat right. I can exercise.
Right.
And we're so glad that you came on with us today. And I know our time is running short, but I just got to tell this story. When we first started meeting, I had to tell this story. When we first met, I was very plumpy.
Yes.
Well, I was in my little apartment. And she came over that day, and for some reason, she went in the drawer, and she found my stack of cakes and cookies in the drawer. And she was getting ready to leave the next week with her girlfriend. They were going out of town. And she said, go and eat this up, because when I come back, you're going on a diet. I didn't like it at first, but I realized that she loved me enough to tell me what I need to do.
Right.
And so I thank her for that, because now I do feel a lot better. I don't eat like that anymore. We eat healthy, and my mind, my brain has rewired. And now I know how to eat. Sometimes I still don't eat right, but I always go back to what she taught me. And I do feel a lot better now. So I thank you for that. I thank you for coming on with us tonight, giving us so much educating, so much knowledge and wisdom tonight about exercise and how to rewire our brains and how to eat right. You told us a lot tonight. And before you leave, tell us once again where we can find you, because I know sometimes you do your own personal training, have your own boot camp. You're not having it right now, but I know you are going to have it again. And tell us where if you're in our area, where they can find you teaching it.
Yes. If you're in the Tupelo, Mississippi area, which is the 38801 zip code, my boot camp is called Beast Mode Fitness and Boot Camp. It is an outdoor boot camp. We usually meet about 3 days a week, and you can find me at Beast Mode Boot Camp, Fitness and Boot Camp on Facebook, and shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to get back with you and let you know when we're going to meet again. If you're interested in personal training, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Magillis Holman Stegall, and I'll be happy to go over any programs and pricing with you.
Well, we thank you for that. And now, since you know even more about ACE, and I'm going to ask you this, but I know you're already doing it. Since you know even more about ACEs, will you go out and be a spokesperson for ACEs? Tell more people about ACEs.
Yes, I definitely will. And thank you for having me on the show. And thank you for enlightening me about ACEs, because this will better help me to understand. We have grandchildren. If anything is, it's just, I'll be looking out for signs.
Yes. And that's where we're at. Because as I said at the beginning of the show, ACEs matter. Our mission is to have every home, every community talking and doing something about ACEs. And I just want to thank all of you for joining us for this episode. And I always remember that there are more of us, there are more reaches. So look out for all of us on ACEs Matter, the rest of our reaches, and check out all of our webinars. And I will be back on the second Friday of next month. But before I leave, I must give this call to action. ACEs Matter is a charitable organization educating the world about ACEs. But to continue to bring you this good information, we need your help. And I beg you to go on acesmatter.org, hit that donate button. And even if it's just $5, we will appreciate it. And after that, I'll see you on the next webinar.
If you have a birthday coming up, or maybe you'd just like to do something for the greater good, please consider starting a personal fundraiser on Facebook and selecting ACEs Matter as your cause. Need a reason? Well, we have 3 just for you. ACEs Matter helps families in need cover the cost of mental health services. ACEs Matter hires local contractors and even stay-at-home parents who need flexible work schedules. We care about humanity, and ACEs Matter provides free training and education to those who've been affected by childhood trauma. It's easy to set up a donation campaign from your Facebook account. From your phone or internet browser, type or search www.facebook.com/fundraisers. Select nonprofit, search for ACEs Matter, type in how much money you'd like to raise, choose an end date, give your fundraiser a catchy title, edit the default description if you'd like, then click Create. Congratulations. Now you can invite your friends, share on your timeline, and raise money for a great cause. For every ACE story told, an ACE can be prevented. 2 heartbeats from our house to yours.
ACEs Matter is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. EIN 85-1246674.